Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us today, and thanks for the introduction. I think the very best way that I can possibly start off to give the center stage, I think that's important voices that we can possibly hear from as somebody who grew up on tube feedings and nutrition support and has lived to tell the tale. And so I'm going to turn it over, including his own introduction. Vince Roche, please take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. Like Beth said, my name is Vincent Roche, and I've been a patient since I can remember. I was born pretty normal on October 3rd, 1991, but about 9 years old, I started having some major issues. And similar to heterotaxy, I had a malrotation in my intestines and had a LADS procedure to try to fix that. That did not fix all of my issues, but with the support of nutrition support and great caregiver, my mother and doctors, I still live on nutrition support today, but I live a pretty full life, and I am the community engagement coordinator for the Oley Foundation, and I advocate for the enriching the lives of patients and caregivers and really making sure that we bridge that gap so that way patients really have a source and resources to be able to get the information they need so that way they are having the education so they really don't go without. Also, having a connection with someone like them is very important. That's something that I didn't really have until a very older age. I felt like I was alone in this world and I was the only one like me. And until I found someone that was like me or multiple people like me, it really made my life a lot better. Today, I am the community engagement coordinator, and I also have I have a house, I have a dog, I have a girlfriend. So it's been a really great experience, and there's been some major ups and downs for sure, but I will say there's been a lot more ups than downs because of the support that I have behind me and the advocating that I've done for myself. I would like to say that the patient voice is very important and it matters more than I think any other voice does, as well as the caregiver, because we are the one that is facing these obstacles directly head on, and we are the ones that are going through these ups and downs, and we need support more than anyone needs support in this world. And I'm just thankful that I had great parents and great doctors and that I was able to get that support, and I'm really thankful that nutrition support has been able to let me live a great life, I would say. It hasn't been the best life, but I would say it's been a great life, and thankful for all the innovations and all the things that have come from the nutrition support community as well. Well, I couldn't be happier to be where I'm at now, and I'm glad that my lived experience has been able to bring me to such a great foundation and such a great life to be able to help people connect and really educate them on the life that is possible while on nutrition support. I've even done things like travel to Spain and travel to Rome, and all of that is possible because of the nutrition support that I'm on and all the support that I do have. So thank you guys for having me so much. It's been a great experience to be here, and I'll turn it over to Beth.
Well, thanks, Vince. I actually want to ask you one very specific question. And could you give us like one of the hardest challenges for like tube feeding specifically? And then what was like a suggestion besides plugging into community, which you emphasized really well, but like what's one of the bigger challenges you've experienced and what were some of the tips that might have helped that?
I think the biggest challenge was really having almost no education. Back in the day, when I first grew up, we had limited education. It was kind of just thrown at me and my parents. And I think that that really was a big challenge for us. It was almost like we had to learn how to do this almost on our own rather than have education to be able to provide a guide or a path for us to lead us down. I wish I had a yellow brick road that I could lead myself down, but unfortunately there was no brick road. It was just, this is going to be your new life. And I also wish, I think one of the other biggest challenges is figuring out how to live life like this. What was going to be my new normal from so many other people. And I think the biggest tip that I can give is ask as many questions as you can. Really emphasize, what is my life going to look like on tube feedings? Can I still do this? Can I still do that? And advocate for the life that you really want and partner with your care team or the team that is managing your care. I think if I was able to partner with my care team a lot sooner, I would have been able to do a lot more in my life that I'd missed out on or thought that I couldn't do. But in reality, after partnering with my care team, or the team that manages my care, I was able to do a lot of things that I never thought was possible by asking those questions, and really making sure that I was able to live a full life. Because I like to say, what is life? Why live life without living a full life, right? So I think that asking those questions, and then also having a plan A, B, and C, because sometimes, doctors suggest one thing, but that may not work for you or the next person. So I think having a backup plan or an option that if this does not work, I think would have also been very helpful. So asking a lot of questions and really making sure that you're aware of what is going to be happening next and after that if it does not work.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing your insight. And I think those resound very well with me too as a caregiver. So as my introduction, I have 6 children. One is on 2 feeds. He's now 16 and he has been since birth, but I don't have a feeding tube. And so I don't know what it's like. I call that site adjacent or front row cheerleader to what it's like. I could tell you about the navigating the road and talking with, advocating on his behalf and in the insurance and things like that. But I don't know what it's like to truly live it. And so Vince, thank you so much for sharing a little snippet of your life, because I think that gives encouragement to that you can live. It's I think that's one of the things about tube feeding that I want to get started with is it's said in hushed tones like it's the end of the world, or it's an end of the life decision, or it's the last thing. Now I'm going to say on the other side is if people don't give them a tube. It's that simple. We're not advocating that everybody should be born with one or given one, but if you need it, you need it, and it's okay. And there's a stigma, a really negative stigma sometimes associated with tube feeds, which I think is quite unfair. And so, as a mom of somebody on tube feeds, and then also as the CEO of the Oley Foundation, I can tell you one of the things that we fight for is that we fight for patient safety. So we want to make sure that all patients that have tube feeds, either before they're on there, as they make that decision to say, should I not? How do I work with my team to know if I'm ready for one, if I need one, while you're on it, and then the whole time you're on it until you either no longer need it or the end of your life, is how to be safe while you do that. And have part of that is the education, like Vince just talked about. The second thing that we really fight for is to be able to, for all patients to have access. And what I mean by that is access to every option. What are your options? So just because you were given tube A doesn't necessarily mean that's the only tube for you, or formula A, or feeding schedule A. Those may or may not be the perfect solution for you. And there are options. And so many patients don't know that there are options of tubes or pumps or the rate or the speed or the formula and things like that. And so it becomes a thing of you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit. I think that it's important to know that there are options. So if something isn't working, it's okay to work with your team and say, hey, is there a better way? Do I have more options? The other part of access is to access to knowledge. So I think Vince just highlighted that pretty well, is are there choices, but also who knows, and what questions should I be asking my provider? I think for me as a caregiver, so many times I felt like I was the only one. Vince just said the same thing. I felt like I was the only one. Maybe I'm a bad advocate. Maybe I don't know how to advocate for my kid because he's struggling. Maybe I'm just in a bad hospital. Maybe it's that. Maybe I have a bad insurance and that's why I'm getting mistreated. Maybe it's, and you fill in the blank with all of these, maybe it's something that I did. But it may not be any of that at all. And so realizing that when I have knowledge that connect with other people, they start to say, I'm having that same trouble too. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm not the only one. And so that gave me encouragement to be empowered to speak up kindly, always kindly, but to speak up for what's going on, what's going well, what's not going well, where are my goals, what's working, what's not working, and really to partner with our team. And the last piece of access is about community. I think Vince also mentioned that too, is really plugging in that you don't have to be the only one. I'm so glad that you guys have found this organization, your organization, and you probably understand the value of community, to not be the only one. There's somebody else like me, there's another caregiver like me, and so forth. But the power of not doing this journey alone is so much more valuable than I could ever articulate. I think it's just so important to know it's not my fault. I didn't do this. I don't have to do this alone. And I think as a caregiver early on, with my really, really complex medical kids, especially my last one, Manny, who's 16, um, I truly felt like I had failed him so many times. And I wish somebody would have come along early on that just says, Beth, you're doing your best, and encouraged me and stayed with me. So I don't know if I'm speaking to other caregivers here, or maybe that's just my experience, but I don't think so. Is I feel like if I had only spoken up sooner, if I had only fought harder for that, if I had only, and you fill in the blank, and we really get quite heavy on ourselves. Um, and somebody told me along the way, you did the best you could with the information you had. And that sort of started to help me realize maybe I didn't screw this up. Maybe I would make a different choice now, but that was the best I could with the information I had. And so I just want to empower you. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to know that you have options. It's okay to want to communicate with get more knowledge, and it's okay to want to connect with your community. One of the phrases that Oley has used over the years is help along the way, because to me, that's the most important thing that we can do is how do you live with? So I've talked about Oley comes along for, do you need to get on to feeds or not, the safety aspects, the 3 types of access, but really where we spend a majority of our time is living with. So this isn't a death sentence. It's not the end of the world. You can actually go live. Vince will talk about being to Spain. I haven't been to Spain, and I don't have a tube feed. And so you truly can live. And so that's actually Oley's mission, is helping people in nutrition support thrive. And we do it through the different mechanisms, but that's the most important piece that I think I could emphasize today, is that if you are considering getting a feeding tube and you need it, if you already have one, there's ways to live. So we go about telling people you can travel sometimes that shouldn't be the limiter. Other things may limit you, but tube feeding shouldn't be your limit to if you can travel, if you can go on cruises, if you can go international, if you can do certain sports potentially carefully, if you can, maybe have a relationship one day, maybe you can get married one day. Some people can have babies. Some people can, like whatever you want for your goal. And so that's one of the most important things that I think I could leave is working with your care team is what are your goals? What are your child's or whoever's the patient? What are their goals? If it's just less days of distress, maybe it's reducing when they're in pain. Maybe it's putting on a couple pounds. Maybe it's whatever those goals are. Maybe it's go to Spain. Whatever those goals are, to be really intentional. And how do I work with my team in order to get that done? Now, my child does not have this syndrome. My child has an ultra rare form of muscular dystrophy, and his other conditions are way more life limiting for him. His use of wheelchair, his inability to do things against gravity, and so forth. There's a lot of life limiting things because of the diagnosis that he has, secondary to why he needs nutrition support. But nutrition support shouldn't be the reason that people don't stop. It's just a way to eat. And so that's the message that I would like to do today, is encourage everybody that if you have questions, if you want to community, if you want to know options, if you want to have access to these other things, feel free to plug into your own organization, plug into the Oley Foundation, and be encouraged. Just like Vince has said, you can go live. And we would love to offer any of that help along the way with the Oley Foundation. So thank you so much for your time today. I don't know if we turn this back over, or if there's questions, or however that works. So I'll turn this over to whoever is in charge. But thank you for your time today.